Hello, Opening Pathways viewers. Welcome. It's Tom Lenoble, and I've got a very special guest for us today. I have Itamar Novick with us today from Ventures. He's the CEO and founder. Itamar, welcome to the show.
Tom, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here, and thanks for everybody who's kind of tuning in to listen to us. Hopefully, this will be a fun one.
Yeah, I'm excited you're here. I've been waiting and excited about doing this one with you. And I want to start out by you telling the viewers and myself about Recursive, a little about yourself, but I want to mostly know what sparked your idea to start it.
Yeah. Wow, this one is a long one in the making. So, first of all, Recursive Ventures is a VC firm focused on inception stage. So we help founders get from 0 to 1, get off the ground, like the most basic, that first step to go out there into the wild. We write $500,000 to $1 million checks, and then we roll up our sleeves and we help our founders, get going. And that's really been my passion, having been in startups for 25 years now, is helping founders, get off the ground, get their company going. And I'm so excited to do this job every day, just helping founders. And I guess what got me here is first and foremost, 25 years of working at startups, being on all sides of the table. I've been a serial entrepreneur and startup executive. I have invested in over 150 companies at the inception stage, and was very fortunate to work with 7 unicorns and decacorns along the years. And that really sparked my passion to kind of institutionalize what I do and build a venture firm around it that, helps founders.
So I just felt the energy of all the future viewers of this podcast sit up on their seat when they heard what you just said and the energy with which you said it. You can feel your passion for not only doing the work you're doing, but what you do, the reason why you do it. So here's what I want to know. What was the moment that you knew with Recursive that this is my path?
Yeah, that's a really interesting one. So I had a stint as a VC actually a while back between 2010 and 2012. I was a junior guy on Sand Hill Road. So I learned venture capital from some of the best in the business. And at some point, I figured that there isn't really a path from being a junior VC to being a senior VC, and I should go, build another company, which is what I did. I bailed from VC land and I jumped into a company called Life 360, which is now a $7+ billion publicly traded Nasdaq company that I helped build. I jumped in at a very early stage and I bought out a co-founder. And I was sort of the right hand, if you will, of Chris Halls, the CEO and founder of Life 360. And what I learned, one of the things I learned about myself in the 12-year journey is that I'm actually a bad CEO, but I'm great at supporting them.
Interesting.
That was my realization. I figured that there's certain properties, certain characteristics that CEOs have that I'm not particularly good at. I'm not bad either, but for the CEO, you want the best person for the job, right? And I'm not that person, but I am one of the best at, coming alongside on the CEO journey, helping them. And I also learned the hard way that I really like being the person that gets the first call when, excuse my French, when S hits the fan.
Yes.
Something
Yes.
happens. I like being the guy that gets the first call, and I know how to solve a lot of those issues and actually mentor, coach my entrepreneurs as somebody who's gone through the ups and downs of startups through that experience. And that's really that internal process in my head where I realized what I'm really impactful in is what made me choose to leave my very cushy job at a public company as a C-level, which I took public as CFO, and I spent 12 years of my life doing, quit that job. And obviously the compensation that accompanies that as a C-level in a public company, and move back to the early stage to support dozens and thousands of founders by being that guy that helps them when things get rough.
Here's what I love about what you just said, besides that I just had flashbacks of Sand Hill Road flapping through my head. But what I love that you're saying to the viewers is you found what you came here to do.
Mhm.
You uncovered for yourself what it was and where you do the best and where it brings you the most, not only enjoyment, but where you make the biggest impact in your service to others. I love that. Tell me this, did you ever doubt your vision?
No, look, I had I was lucky that no venture capital from before. I was investing and I was actually running Recursive Ventures as a side project, moonlighting, while I was building Life 360. So I've been doing this for 12, 13 years before I decided to jump to do it full time. So I guess I had the luxury of kind of knowing what I'm getting into and knowing that it's going to be a great fit for me and I'm gonna love doing it. Doing it day to day now, I've been full time scaling up Recursive Ventures now for 3 years. It's more work than I initially thought that it would be, but I'm super happy to do it just because it's work that I love this work right now.
Good, good, good. So I'm going to back up a little bit, and I find people of where we are today, especially those of us that have found something that's our passion and we're doing one. I can feel that you get a lot of energy out of what you're doing and love what you're doing. Who was it way back when Itamar was young? Who was it in the backstory that you think molded you to be able to be who you are today?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I think there's been a few key people in my journey that I cherish today, and some of them are mentors to me even today. So, I'd probably talk about three of them. The first one was actually my partner, who I founded my first company with right after the bubble burst in 2001. I founded a company back in Israel, which went bankrupt. I was the CTO. I hired 7 engineers. We had a single customer, the Israeli government. And then one day they called us and said, "Oh gosh, we don't actually use your software. Can we cancel the licensing thing of this thing?" And we went from having a company with 7 employees to nothing in a day and had to fire everybody and close down the company. So I learned a lot from my CEO co-founder then because he already had some business chops. And I also learned that, gosh, you got to really understand what you're build, know what you're doing to build a company and have the responsibility, uh, hire people, take care of them. You have to know what you're doing. And we were kids, we didn't know what we were doing. So that was an important learning lesson for me. And I learned a lot from my co-founder back then. Then the second kind of pivotal point in my career, I guess, kind of learning up to where I'm at today is I was very fortunate in 2008 to join a company called Gigya that ended up getting sold to SAP for $350 million. And the three founders there were just amazing. They were from the generation that built the internet and they knew the internet inside out. And they were experienced entrepreneurs who built companies before. And I was very fortunate to be one of the first hires working directly with the CEO. I ended up being head of product after a while, but that was the first product hire. I basically took the product function from the CEO because he was too busy doing other stuff. Oh man, that team, those founders, they taught me everything that I know about startups in just 2.5 years. It was an amazing journey that started with, a small multi-room apartment that we built the company from and ended up being a benchmark Mayfield first round backed company that got sold to SAP for $350 million, right? So that was the first, second point. Then the third, and mentor that I still work with closely today, a guy that goes by the name of Mark Goins, who's one of the best angel investors in history and used to be a general partner at Morgan Terra Ventures, where I worked on Sand Hill Road. He has been my mentor into venture capital. He had several stints as an entrepreneur, several stints as a GP, hundreds of angel investments. I mean, the guy is just so impressive on so many levels. And he taught me I think he taught me two very important things. One is how to be a good investor, and then how to be fair in my dealings with other investors and with founders. Like, what's your moral compass? What's your north star? I think I learned a lot about that. And it's very important in venture for Mark Goins. So those were probably the three pivotal
Yes.
people that really helped propel my career forward.
Viewers, Itamar keeps making me have flashbacks here today. I just had one where on my birthday one year I had to lay off 165 people on my birthday, but Mordey Vidal, I haven't heard that in years. And I was part of a Mordey Vidal company with Donna Novinsky and Nancy Schoenberg at one point. And boy, you're bringing it back to me today, Itamar. I love it. And I love what you're sharing with us about these people and specifics about what they brought to you and the difference they made in your life. Here's what I want to know next. What personal values have guided you from the start?
Yeah. So I've always tried to live up to a few key values, which I think are very important in business and just, interpersonal, just engaging and dealing with people. The first one is my handshake is golden. If I say I'm going to do something, if I say that this is what, I'll make sure happens and so on and so forth. If I close a deal with you verbally, handshake, it's done. It's on me to make sure it's done. So that's kind of the first thing. The second thing is, everything I do, with a very with a moral lens of like what is fair, what makes sense. Because I've learned the hard way. I've done a lot of deals over the years. I've raised a lot of money and closed business development and corporate development deals and so on and so forth. And what I learned in the long run is if you do a deal that's unfair to the other side, it's just not going to hold. They're going to find ways to weasel out of it. It's not going to work. You really need to have win-win situations with folks in order to create value. So my second guiding principle is really being fair, dealing with people in a fair and honest way. Honesty is very important, and making sure that we do it with that moral lens of like, doing the right thing, right? So that's kind of very important. The last one is, integrity. Uh,
Hmm.
integrity in everything that I do, integrity in everything that I represent. It's just like a random example. 2 weeks ago, I did a podcast like this with another podcaster, and they used ChatGPT to kind of write a summary of the podcast, and it was hallucinating left and right. It said that I don't know that I was a Life 360 co-founder, which is not true. And the guy published it without even running it by me. And I was freaking out. It's like, I will never, ever say something that's not entirely true and that I can't back, right? Because that's not the kind of integrity that I expect from myself and from anybody else, right? So lead with integrity. That would be the third.
I love that one. So, what was the first challenge that you faced as a leader that was a foundation to what your leadership style became?
That's a great question. So I'm Israeli originally, and there's cultural gaps between Israelis and American business culture.
Yes.
There's, not I mean, a lot of similarities. I think we're close, but not the same. So when I was in Israel and I was managing people in Israel, even at scale, like I probably had 10, 15 employees reporting to me in my last job in Israel. But when I moved over to the US, I guess I just didn't have the right leadership style. Like I didn't know how to effectively engage with people here in the US. I was very dogmatic. I wasn't listening enough. I was dictating because like the Israeli culture around this in startups is a little bit top down. It's like do as I say and here's why and like then just get going, right? It's not well, US specifically the startup ecosystem in Silicon Valley, a lot of the innovation bubbles up from the individuals, right? From and a lot of the culture is wow, let's give this team a lot of leeway so they can figure out what's the right product and what's the right approach and how to market this thing and how to build this product. And I wasn't used to that, so I actually had to go through over a year of coaching with an executive coach, and I was VP of product initially, so I was managing like 2 dozen people, I guess, at some point. And just go through coaching and understand how to bridge the gap culturally and how to change my mindset as a manager from dictating to empowering, right? And that's kind of the process that I went through. Took me a few years, but I feel much more comfortable where I'm at today.
Now, I love hearing you say you got a coach and I got some coaching that worked for you. You know what that just did to me. But let me ask you this. If somebody was watching you back then in those days, what would surprise them most about Itamar today?
I think they would probably say I grew softer a lot. Like in my 30s, I was like, bam, bam, bam. This is what you need to do, right? And over time, it become more of a discussion, more of like creating that space that lets people, chime in and do their best, right? That's kind of what has changed in a significant way, I feel.
Interesting.
And I'm still not doing it well enough, but I'm trying.
Good, good, good. Tell me something. What did those early days teach you about trust?
Yeah, trust is an interesting thing. I always start with a starting point of like I trust people, and then I get disappointed if the trust is broken. And I think one thing that I used to do is I used to give people second and third chances. I'm mostly over that now. Like if somebody breaks my trust once, I tend to walk away unless there's a really good explanation. And
Hmm.
that's been a learning lesson for me because I used to give people second and third opportunities. And then I would like, I would like grab my head saying, why I give this person, and then they fell into the same trap, same, same cycle, same vicious cycle. Only realized later on that you can fundamentally change people and they're probably going to repeat. So that kind of had me thinking about if somebody breaks my trust once, I don't necessarily want to engage.
Yes. One of the greatest lessons is learning that we can't change people unless they want to change.
It is what it is, by the way, and you just have to accept it, right?
Yes,
Move on.
yes. So tell me this, what was the riskiest decision you made that paid off? And what was it that gave you the courage to act on it?
Yeah. So in with Life 360, I was a venture capitalist junior guy at Morgan Taylor Ventures, not more Davido, by the way. Morgan Taylor Ventures. It's a
Ah, got it, got it, got it. I heard it wrong. Sorry.
yeah, no, it's my pronunciation. It's probably bad. And I did all the diligence on this company, Life 360, and nobody wanted to invest back then. It was so hard to get investors on this thing. Actually, the number one reason VCs said that they don't want to invest, and this is 2010, 2011, was that they said kids are never going to have smartphones. Crazy, right? Only 15 years ago, the conception on Sand Hill Road was that kids are not going to have smartphones. And obviously, in hindsight, we know now that yes, they all have them.
Yes.
And I did all the diligence work and I saw that there is massive demand for this, right? That parents want to have peace of mind. They want to be able to know that everything is A-okay with their kids and all that. And um, when I decided to leave venture, Chris Holes, the CEO founder of Life 360, gave me an option to buy out a co-founder that left. He didn't get along and the guy left, he quit, but he had significant equity in the company. So I took all the capital I had at that time, which wasn't a lot. I was just out of my MBA. I was in debt and blah, blah, blah. I borrowed 2x my net worth and put all that money into the company at a very low valuation, basically buying out that co-founder and coming into the company as a late co-founder, if you want to call it that way, although I was never co-founder by title. And that was obviously the biggest, wildest bet I've ever made. And I'm very, very lucky to say that that bet was successful when it's, now a publicly traded $7 billion company.
Wow, you took a risk, didn't you?
All in.
Um, all in. I like it. I like it. Um, well, tell me this. What's a failure that you thought was your best strategic move now?
Oh, wow. Well, here's one. So back in the day when I was a VC, I sourced Waze, the navigation company that got sold to Google. Um, and I had an opportunity to invest and I passed in the deal. And the reason I passed in the deal was that I did not understand the value of data. They told me like we have no revenue, but our data is epic. Like everybody wants our data about what's happening on the road, what's the road condition, how are people driving, how much congestion. And I was like, yeah, it's just data. Who cares, right? Like you're not making money. So I passed in the deal, and that was obviously in hindsight straight to my anti portfolio. Should have done that deal. It was a great deal, right? Um, would have made some good money out of that. But more interestingly, it became a lesson for me in the next 15 years of my investment career on the value of data. And actually, when I went to build Recursive Ventures is really focused on investing in AI companies. But our thesis in the fund is your AI is only as good as the underlying data, right? And that whole thesis, that whole thinking got shaped by that failure to invest in ways back in the day and recognizing the value of the data they had.
Interesting. What a great story. How does Itamar decide when to pivot or push through?
Well, for my companies or for me as my fund, or
For you, how do you decide?
I don't have a very good answer for that. I tend to think about building my own business and my own endeavors as a set of experimentations. Um, and I'm like, okay, if I'm going to experiment, I'm going to do those 10 experiments. And if all they're all going to fail, and I did good experiments, so good data, good results, not like, junk data, junk results, whatever, then if I fail in an extended series of experiments, then I could pull back on something. And that's also how I run the fund. So I don't know if the viewers might be maybe following me on LinkedIn. I hope. If not, please follow me on LinkedIn. I'm the only Itamar Novick out there. It's so easy to find. Just like click that follow button, and I write almost daily. Um, with the content stuff, we're doing a lot of experimentation. So, for example, we want to start a newsletter because a lot of people have been approaching me and saying, "Itamar, you drop all this amazing content on a daily basis, and we wish we could see it all in like one central place and like follow up with all this great content." So, we're launching a newsletter, right? And it's an experiment, and it's okay if it fails, right? But if we do 20 of these, like 20 different experiments in content, and it's not working, then yeah, maybe we should spend less time in content and kind of pull back. That's how I frame making decisions and whether we should, invest more or less.
Did you ever say no to business because it wasn't aligned?
Oh, I do that every single day.
Tell us.
Well, I turn down companies that are not aligned with what I'm looking for as an investment, but also philosophically, like, if it's an, I don't, if it's an area that I don't want to be in, betting. I don't want to invest in betting companies. You know, weed. I mean, nothing against it. I just don't want to invest in the category, right? Booze, same thing. So there's that sort of what I feel that I can truly relate to, and what I think my firm should relate to, right? There's that, but there's also, and this is very important for all the folks out there who want to be maybe VCs one day. It's like the most important thing you have is your time management. So just give an example. There's all this GLG and expert networks where you can spend an hour consulting on a topic that you know well. So I charge $1,000 an hour for a consulting hour of my time, and I turn jobs all the time. And it's $1,000 an hour. It's clearly like good money, but my priority should be primarily to my LPs, the ones that invest in my fund, and to the folks working in my fund. So if I need that hour to do something important for them, that should be my priority. And I would turn down the $1,000 an hour opportunity. I do that all the time.
Very interesting. Tell me this. What impact are you most proud of personally, not professionally?
Hmm, interesting. Um, well, yeah, this one is controversial, but let's go for it. So I helped set up a Burning Man camp called Cosmic Camels.
I love it.
That was all about bringing together people from the Middle East who might not be agreeing on a daily basis, and promoting a dialogue in Burning Man, which is obviously a very good alternative setting for those type of dialogues. And um, it's a very tough process to go through. And then obviously we've had October 7th, and unfortunately that group has mostly disbanded since, because it's very hard to have a dialogue. Now with everything
Yes.
on there's everything that happened, but I think this is not necessarily the thing that I'm most proud about, but I'm just happy that I could help facilitate dialogue, because, at the end of the day, you make peace with enemies, and we're not going to solve anything without a dialogue. So we all have to be pushing to having those conversations and those engagements with
Yeah.
friends and enemies. Otherwise, how are we going to advance humanity, right?
Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. I often say when things are polarized, the tension is tight. There's only one place to go. here.
right? Yeah.
So,
Even if it's a
yes,
75-year-old conflict that doesn't seem
yes.
to have an end, but it will have one day, and we need to facilitate.
We see it in so many places right now where we are in our corners and we just want to be so fixed and pull harder and harder. And we just maybe need to think about how we kind of meet somewhere and try and give a little on both sides to be able to get something better for each. So tell me this, how do you define success beyond metrics?
I think, happiness. Are people happy? Do people feel that they've, you know, made a dent on their lives and other people's lives? Um, I'll just give you an example, right? About something in Life 360 that people don't talk often about. So Life 360 is obviously a family, safety and peace of mind application that keeps everybody in sync with always on location and messaging and location and place alerts when people arrive and leave several different places. That's kind of the foundation. But on top of that, we build a service that does automatic crash detection and response, car crash, right? Using smartphone sensory data. So if you're in a crash, we know that you're going 30 and got hit by the side at 20 miles, got dragged for 20 yards, and it's severity 6 out of 10 accident. We try to call you up. Life 360 calls up the person in the car, and if they don't respond twice, they send an ambulance to the exact location that we have where the accident happened. This is a life-saving feature. There's people that lives are being saved every week with this thing, right? Um, so, that's an obvious example of making an impact that
Mm,
goes even beyond making people happy. It's like actually having a big impact on people's lives. And I love people and businesses that go beyond just making money, but also
yes,
feel impact on people's lives.
I love this. So tell me this, how do you balance being a leader with being a learner?
Hmm, that's a great question. It's a tough one. I think you have to continuously ask for feedback. I think even as a leader, you have to seek mentorship. And sometimes, get advice from somebody on your team is amazing. I just did that actually a week ago. My chief of staff, she's great. She just recently joined us, Pau. She was looking at my cadence and how I work through filtering companies. And she was like, hey, you know what? You should have like the first call that you have with founders, it should be shorter because it's going to be better for them because they're going to be able to focus. Like the founder's time is the most valuable time in the world. Like their time is the most valuable time in the world. So we have to be respectful of that, right? And if we're a pass, if we don't want to invest in this deal, we should take the least amount of their time so they can go focus on other VCs who might have more interest in the business, right? And the other side was like, hey, if you cut down your calls to 30 minutes, then you would have more time to help more founders, right? And as immediately as and I've been doing this for 15 years, she's been just doing it for a few years, right? And immediately when she said that, I was like, wow, that's like an amazing idea and changed how I operate because of that. So I think on one end, yes, you're a leader. You sometimes you have to dictate. Sometimes like, hey, here's how we're gonna do it, and you have the experience. Somebody needs to make a decision. You make the call, right? But you have to be very open minded, getting feedback, getting mentorship, getting advice, getting ideas from people inside and outside your organization. Because if it's all just static and in your head, you're going to get stuck. It's just a matter of time and you're going to make mistakes. The way to avoid making mistakes is try to engage and involve as many people with the challenge that you have and hear all those different opinions
Yes,
and then figure out what's right for you. But you got to have your antennas out there. You got to have an open mind.
yes, a lot of wisdom in what you just said there. So, what's the boldest vision for Recursive Ventures in the next 5 years?
Oh, it's super simple. We're already there. We are on our path, and we sort of already are the best pre-seed fund in Silicon Valley investing in AI, period.
I get to talk to a lot of AI founders and CEOs on this podcast. I have to tell you, I find it so energizing. Some of the applications I'm hearing and what people are doing with AI is really, really exciting. Things that really are for good and all this drama that we hear about AI right now that are really, really good stuff. So I'm glad to hear that. What shifts in tech right now are lighting you up?
Well, look, I've gone through, I was a very young guy back in the day, but I went through the internet bubble or the burst of it. Then I went through web and mobile and SaaS and fintech and early AI, and now I call it late AI, like the latest AI, the generative AI. So I've went through all these different, tech cycles. This AI that we have now is the biggest of all of them. It's a mega cycle, like we've never seen before. I think it's probably the most similar to the invention of personal computing, which is the basis of all those other things that we saw built on top with the web and SaaS and all those things. And the fundamental shift here is we're moving from a world where software and communication, computer communication, is enhancing our productivity, like making us more productive as humans, into a world where the machines are doing the work for us. That is such a fundamental shift. And that is why there's multiple people, including me, that believe that in some time frame, I don't know if it's 5 years, 10 years, or 100 years, that's TBD, um, we're going to see up to 50% of global GDP driven by AI, right?
Amazing.
Drive for us. It's gonna do the dishes for us. It's gonna do our white collar spreadsheet work for us. It's gonna be our accountant. It's gonna be our kids teacher. It's gonna be all those things combined with humans. I'm not we're gonna find the right way to move forward as humans together with the machines, but it is inevitable that machines would do a significant number of the tasks that we do today instead of us. And it's the biggest tech wave in history.
Yes, yes. We humans find a way to adapt. I'll date myself a little bit, but I watched the first fax happen, and I remember we all stood back and thought it was magic. And I remember in years ago in service centers, running customer service centers, when everything was on paper and we first went to computers, and everyone thought the world was going to end and we were going to lose, everybody was going to lose their job. And we could go through technology where these dramas happen. And I love that many of us can see the opportunity while having the responsibility to know that we have to also address what it means to people as these things change and how we bring them along and what happens, because that's also critically important. Tell me this, what are you most hopeful about in the world today?
Well, I am a technology optimist, so I am hopeful for AI. But I actually want to take this question and kind of segue a little bit to where I'm slightly concerned about this. And what I'm concerned about is that some leaders in AI are kind of digging their hands in the sand of like, oh, AI is not going to replace humans. I think it will. I think it will replace humans. And the obvious example I give everybody because it's so in front of us is Waymo, right? It's like driverless cars. There's millions of people in the continental US today that are driving vehicles, right? We are not going to need all those people a couple of years from now. We know that. So I'm very optimistic about the prospects for us as a humanity, but I'm worried about the individual. I'm worried about our society. And I'm worried about leaders standing up there, testifying in front of Congress saying that we don't have a problem. I think that's digging our head in the sand. I think we all need to put our heads together to, you know, reskill, upskill people so they can really be effective in the post AI world, right? So that they find their place in society and they don't feel left out, right? Because we all want and need to be productive. We all want and need to make an impact to some degree. And if that's taken away from us because of the machines and we don't, and as a society, we don't help people get back to be able to making that impact with AI, we're going to leave some folks behind. And that could be very painful for them, but it can also be devastating for our society.
It could be. I think we are creating a lot of fear and potential mental health issues and other things in our society by not proactively looking at what we may need to do to adjust. I couldn't agree with you more. Tell me this, if you had some advice that you wish you could give to every new founder just starting on the path, somebody that's thinking, they're watching this and they've been thinking about making that decision, they've got the itch, they want to, start a company and be a founder, what would you share with them? What advice would you give them?
I think, and this is a hard one, there's obviously a lot of important, I think, advice that I can give there, but there's the one that I would say is important is get conviction about what you're building. Time is money, money is time. If you're going to spend the next 10 years building something, get conviction, not for your investors, get conviction for yourself. And the way to get conviction that you should be spending the next 10 years of your life is getting some independent feedback and mentoring around this thing, right? It's like the fact that you think it's big, the fact that you think this should be out there, the fact that you should create, that's great. That's the passion, that's the starting point. Now go and validate that with the world so you get conviction first. And when you get that conviction, you'll be able to sell this to the rest of the world, because this is what founders do. They sell to investors, employees, customers, right? But you have to, it has to win you over first fully. Get to a point where you truly believe this is what you should be focused on for the next 10 years before you sort of really jump all in.
Yes, be all in yourself. So I have one final question for you today.
Yeah.
If a very young Itamar was watching this podcast, what would you tell him?
I guess this is a very specific advice, maybe for people in tech. So it might not apply to all the audience out there, but for the folks out there who are in tech, I would say maybe the best advice that I got very early in my career is always stay close to the technology. Always like tinker, play with the gadgets, play with the latest tools. Just, always stay technology curious, because really what drives technology companies is technology, and you always want to be at the cutting edge. So when there's, let's say, a new wave coming in, it's like moving from SaaS to AI. What you want to do is you want to jump on the latest and greatest, even if it means taking a pay cut or getting demoted from being a VP to a director, right? But you move into working for Anthropic. I'm just giving, an example of like a dream, company to work at today. And and kind of the most important thing in tech, you're like only as important as you're only as good as your last job. Always jump into the latest and greatest, and spearhead that, like be at the forefront of where the technology is, and you'll do well in your career.
That's great. That was terrific. Itamar Novick, Recursive Ventures, thank you for being on Opening Pathways today. Tell us how we can find you, what we need to know.
Best way to find me is on LinkedIn. Just follow me on LinkedIn. If you want to pitch your company to me, I'd love to talk to everybody, but there's only so many hours in the day. So my ask is get a warm introduction from somebody that knows you and knows me and can, facilitate the introduction. And then I'd be happy to speak with you about your project and see if I can be helpful.
Wonderful. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Tom.
Yes. And to my viewers, this is Opening Pathways with Tom Lenoble, and I'll see you next time.